Dillian Whyte, we all know, has expressed his interest in fighting Dominic Breazeale for the mandatory position with the WBC. He turned down the Anthony Joshua fight and he said he wasn't happy with the terms. He would be much happier with terms against Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder if he's mandatory challenger, because when you're mandatory, you get a guaranteed split and there's also no rematch clause. So if you beat the champion, you can sail off into the sunset. So Dominic Breazeale is one way of achieving that, to become WBC mandatory. However, Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn seem more keen in putting Dillian Whyte in against Alexander Povetkin. Both Adam Smith and Hearn have said this in recent days. So I don't know how much incentive they're going to give Dominic Breazeale to fight Dillian Whyte, in terms of how much money are they willing to pay Dominic Breazeale, because there does appear to be a little conflict between Eddie Hearn and Sky and Dillian Whyte. I suspect that Eddie Hearn and Sky would be more willing to pay Povetkin big money to fight Dillian Whyte than they would be willing to pay Dominic Breazeale. Would Dillian Whyte versus Povetkin be any kind of mandatory for the WBO maybe? Or sorry, eliminator, final eliminator? Perhaps it would, I don't know. Wasn't Povetkin just AJ's mandatory for the WBO? Are they really going to make him potentially mandatory again so soon? What's in it for Dillian Whyte if he fights Povetkin? He did call out Povetkin a few years ago, when he felt like there was something in it for him then. Was it even last year or was it the year before? I forget now. Time goes so fast. But at this point in time, could you guys see Dillian Whyte being happy to face a Povetkin? You know, he did want to fight him before, but now he's in a different position. Now he's got a lot more to lose. To me, Dominic Breazeale was an easier fight for Dillian Whyte than the Povetkin fight. Yeah, I think it's actually quite a lot easier. Now, I'm going to quote Dominic Breazeale here, because this is another issue. You know, aside from Sky and Hearn wanting Dillian Whyte to fight Povetkin rather than Breazeale, Povetkin rather than Breazeale, Dillian Whyte also has to contend with the fact that Dominic Breazeale might not be willing to risk his WBC mandatory position, because he's already mandatory. If he fights Dillian Whyte and Whyte beats him, Whyte becomes mandatory. So Breazeale may not be willing to risk that. But he said here, people have talked about it for a while. I'm a fan-pleasing type of guy, so if that's what the fans want to see, I'm all for it. At the same time, I'm not going to pass up opportunities to fight for the WBC title, to go down there to fight Dillian Whyte. I hope he does make some type of deal. He can come here to the United States and he can get all he wants of Dominic Breazeale. And Dillian Whyte is quoted here. Dillian Whyte says, I'm trying to get a certain Dominic Breazeale because he's the mandatory, even though I'm the #1 challenger, which doesn't make sense. So if I can get him in the ring and have a dust up with him and beat him, then I will become mandatory and Deontay Wilder will have to stop hiding from me eventually, but we'll see. If that doesn't happen, I need to stay busy because I don't want to sit around and wait 7, 8, 9 months doing nothing. I prefer to just keep risking my position and keep fighting. It's dangerous and it's quite frustrating, but I just want to be busy and keep entertaining the fans. It's dangerous and it's quite frustrating, but I just want to be busy. Okay, they're just repeating the same sentence there. Now, Dillian Whyte, from what I can see at this point, because he has a lot more to lose now than he did a year ago, he's being a lot more careful about who he fights. I personally suspect that a year ago, if there was the opportunity to fight Alexander Usyk, he would have been a lot more interested in that fight than he is now. I mean, we know that when Luis Ortiz was signed to Matchroom, Dillian Whyte called Ortiz out. He was interested in that fight back then. He has been interested in the Povetkin fight, for example. Already mentioned that previous to now. But these, those times were when he had far less to lose than he has now. Now, I've talked about him turning down the AJ fight, and some people are criticizing him for turning down the AJ fight, and they're saying he don't really want that smoke, and he understands that if he loses to AJ, he's gonna lose his status as a pay-per-view fighter. So he wants to basically milk his status as a pay-per-view fighter for as long as he can before taking on an AJ in a rematch. Because, I mean, for example, and this is what people are saying, I'm not necessarily saying I agree, but for example, if you were Dillian Whyte's manager at this point, what would you do? Would you put him in there against AJ, knowing that there's a very good chance that he loses, and all of a sudden, he's no longer a pay-per-view fighter, potentially, especially if he loses badly? Or would you keep trying to put him in against the Dominic Brazils of the world, etc., on pay-per-views in the UK, and keep that gravy train going for a little bit longer? You probably choose the latter, wouldn't you? Now, Dillian Whyte is self-managed, alright, but if you were his manager, that's probably what you'd be thinking, wouldn't you? So maybe Dillian Whyte, from a financial point of view, and by the way, Dillian Whyte is very smart. I've said this on numerous occasions. Dillian Whyte is one of the most business smart fighters I've seen out there. Very smart. He's also a student of the game. He understands boxing very well. Don't let his broken English Jamaican accent fool you. This is a very smart man. And he is looking at it from a business perspective now more than he ever has. He's looking at the risk reward. He's looking at maximizing his earnings long term. He's not looking to just cash out against AJ right now. And that's potentially what the AJ fight is, a cash out fight. He's already been knocked out by him once. If he fights him again anytime soon, he could get knocked out by him again, and then he's no longer a pay-per-view fighter. His journey as a pay-per-view fighter comes to an end, or at least he would have to, start not from the bottom again, but from way down the pecking order, and build himself back up to being a pay-per-view fighter. Potentially, again, depending on how he lost to AJ. If he lost, okay? So, when you think about it from a business perspective, you can't really say that Dillian Whyte is necessarily making the wrong move by not fighting AJ. You can understand why he would want to prolong his status as a pay-per-view fighter taking on the likes of a Dominic Brazil. However, the politics might not favor Dillian Whyte right now. That's the only thing. That's the danger for Dillian Whyte, as well as him losing to a Brazil or somebody like that. And I don't think he will lose to Brazil, but anything can happen. It's heavyweight boxing. But as well as him losing to one of these guys who he's attempting to continue building his profile against, that's one of the risks. The other risk is that Sky and Eddie Hearn could turn on him and start trying to force him down certain roads that he don't want to go down. I've even seen some people say that Eddie Hearn and Sky are actually a bit pissed off with Dillian Whyte now, and they want to put him in against Povetkin and get him beat. I'm not sure that that's true, but I've seen some people suggest this online. So Dillian Whyte was on Sky Sports yesterday doing an interview, and he was putting a lot of pressure on Eddie Hearn and Sky, saying they need to deliver for me. Well, from what I've seen, they have delivered in spades for Dillian Whyte. So for him to be coming out publicly and talking the way that he's talking about Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports, I can't imagine the bigwigs at Sky Sports are particularly happy with the way Dillian Whyte is talking. So it could turn into a situation where there's tension between the network, not only the promoter, but the network and Dillian Whyte. And in a situation like that, we might see Dillian Whyte go elsewhere. If Sky and Eddie Hearn are not going to let him continue going down the path he wants to go down, we might see a situation where Dillian Whyte goes to BT Sport or goes to PBC, which I think is more likely for him to, go to the United States, take a fight with Dominic Brazil over there, with Al Heyman, and try to go that route. So, it's Dillian Whyte's career. He's going to do what he thinks is best for him from a business perspective. He is a brave guy, but at this point, he's also understanding that he, as a professional boxer, he has a very limited amount of time, a very small window within which to make life-changing sums of money. So he's not trying to cash out against AJ right now, because that's a potential cash-out fight. He's trying to prolong this period where he's topping the bill as a pay-per-view headliner. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it works out for Dillian Whyte from a business point of view, whether it works out to his liking or whether it all goes wrong. All I can say is I wish him all the best. I hope the decisions he's making are the right decisions, and I hope he makes an enormous amount of money, because he deserves to make an enormous amount of money. You know, these guys get in the ring and they're absolute warriors. They risk their lives for our entertainment. And I actually had somebody on my Patreon kind of misunderstand what I meant when I say fighters risk their lives for our entertainment. Because this person said, well, fighters don't risk their lives for our entertainment. They risk their lives to earn money for their families. They're doing it for selfish reasons. Well, that's not what I mean when I say fighters are risking their lives for our entertainment. Firemen risk their lives for our safety, saving people from fires. But they're not doing it because they love humanity that much. They're doing it to feed their families, right? Ambulance drivers, etc. Many people within the medical profession, they're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart, most of them. Some of them are, but most of them are not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because they're getting paid and they want to feed their kids and pay their mortgage, etc. That's why they're doing it. But of course, we're so thankful that there are people like firemen who risk their lives. Regardless of what their motive is, they're risking their lives to do that job. Do you understand? And as boxing fans, we need to be thankful that there are these warriors, regardless of why they're boxing, they are providing us entertainment and they're risking their lives in the process. So that's what I mean. I don't mean they're risking their lives because they want to entertain us. No, they're risking their lives. Some of them do, but most of them risk their lives to feed their family, yes, but in the process, they give us entertainment. That's why we pay boxers. That's why boxers get paid, because boxing is an entertainment. It's a form of entertainment. Yeah, it's a spectator sport. So we need to be grateful that there are these warriors out there who are willing to actually do this job of being professional prize fighters. We need to be thankful to them because it's very dangerous. And they deserve to be paid everything they can get. So, you know, that's my perspective on Dillian Whyte. I hope he makes millions and millions and millions throughout his career. But we'll see how it turns out with regards to the politics of the situation he's in right now. Let me know how you guys feel in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out.
Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.